we have that nightmare of we're going to do all this work and then no one comes. But yeah, so this is our first ever coffee break, previously known as Gig City Networking. We had a little bit of a focus group last week where we were excited about the name Gig City Networking, and everyone told us it was a terrible name. But no, apparently the word networking gives people that ick factor, makes you uncomfortable, and it kind of denotes this thing that's more transactional than relational. And that's not who we are, and everyone that was at the focus group was like, hey, that's not who you are. So we went to the drawing board, we spent about 7 hours completely coming up with the wrong names. And then I think just collectively, separately, we were all like, why don't we just call it Coffee Break? Because that's like who we are. And we're all like, why didn't we just think of that immediately and not spend all this time? So yeah, Coffee Break Chatt. We're excited to have you guys. The kind of format that we do is it'll be the second Friday of every month, rotating venue, and we're going to have an artist, a musician, a nonprofit, and a resource at every one. So today we have Charity Troy over here, that's our artist. With our awesome emotional ghost paintings. We have La Paz as our nonprofit. And then we have Hive Think as the resources, don't clap for us. And oh, musicians, duh, and the company folks right here. Yeah, and then I'm going to have, Nate's going to introduce them a little more in specific and then tell why we're doing this on that end. But I just wanted to say that we love community, we love you guys, and that's why we're here. There's two types of networking. There's the transactional, there's the relational, and we're building up the relational side. So that's why it's called Coffee Break. That's why we had really fun questions, and we've got some cool people that are working on it with us. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hi guys, I'm Michael Ortzal. I'm part of Hive Think. We do a lot of stuff to be caffeinated. I was in the middle of a conversation before the room filled up, and then I turned around and it was full of all of you, and I've just been like grinning like a fool ever since. I'm just so excited you're here, and you're awesome.
Hey y'all, I'm Dylan. I'm also a founder of Hive Think. I'm just stoked that everyone's here today. I was telling Madison over here that our Facebook invite had about 3 people say yes to it, and then she said there's only 3 people here. So this is super great, exceeded our expectations, great time.
Howdy. A lot of y'all know me. I'm Nate, the marketing manager for Blue Cafe, and also an owner over here at Hive Think. And guys, we have so many people to say thank you for making this happen. Like Chris said, we want to thank the company of Wolves. Cindy, do you want to talk about what you're going to do really quick?
I'm the founder of Youth Change Initiative. So we're a nonprofit focused on collaborating with youth, creatives, nonprofits, and local businesses, very similar to what Coffee Break is all about. We have so many different programming, but our end goal is to end suicide rates for youth. And part of what we want to do is create opportunities for youth to see if they have value, to see if they can be a part of the community, and they don't have to wait to be leaders of tomorrow, but they can create change today, even at a young age. So I really think they'll be here, and the Hive Think Media Group, Caffeinated, all of you guys in the community have been so supportive, and we'll just love you all. So thanks so much.
And then I'd also like to invite up Lily from La Paz. Yeah, La Paz. We're actually also the Live Back partner this month for being caffeinated. Yeah, Lily, take it away.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, so thank you for that. La Paz is so honored to be Live Back partner for December. We are a nonprofit in Chattanooga that works primarily with the Latino Latinx community. We work in family stabilization, community education, and advocacy efforts. Our vision is, for a thriving community here that safely expresses their culture and their identity and their values, feels welcome in Chattanooga. So that really is where everybody else in Chattanooga plays a part, right? And just making sure that they are meaningfully integrated and they have the resources and access to tools that they need to build their lives here in Chattanooga.
Thank you, Liz. And one more person I want to know up is Charity Troy, our amazing artist today.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name's Charity. I'm not a nonprofit, that's just my name. It's not made up, it's my birthday. art about the people that we have loved and lost and how they still haunt us, and how this may be painful, but how we can also be reminded that we have loved and been loved. So it's a light, dark, beauty of grief as well. But I am a local painter again, and I also work with Walnut Street Publishing as their visual art curator. So can I announce the event tomorrow? Sure. Okay. So tomorrow we're having an art gala and pop-up gallery at the Moxie Hotel downtown. It's from 5 to 7, and it's free, so just come get some drinks, look at art, and we are raising money for a nonprofit. Not me, but thank you.
So a few more folks I want to talk about and shout out for helping make this happen is Joshua Allen, who is here doing incredible video work. Joshua is very happy with it. Yeah, if you want to make great videos or anything, go talk to that guy. He's incredible. Also Bella from Bella Rose Creative. Today. Thank you so much, Bella. I want to thank all the hardworking guys over and baristas over at Decaffeinated who helped make this happen. So thank them for doing this awesome job. Thank you to the Bakery for making our awesome baked goods for today. And finally, I want to thank our amazing guest speakers today from Creative Mornings. Yeah, so if you guys will come on up. I'll allow you all to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what Creative Morning does, and then you guys are going to talk about the week. I'm very excited.
The only thing we were missing was the comedy music. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name's Cody. I'm the host and one of the organizers of the Chattanooga chapter of an event called Creative Mornings, which I'll just tell you about real quick, and then hand the mic to my compatriots. Creative Mornings is a monthly breakfast lecture series for the creative community. So think like TED Talks for the creative set, I guess. We meet the last Friday of every month, from 30 to 10, and have a format kind of similar to this one, just really, really, really focused on creatives and creative curious. So we believe that everyone is creative. We really work hard to bring everyone in the community together into that space. We just believe that's what leads to change and growth in cities and in culture. So we've had over 50 events, and our community number is 1,500 plus at this point, which is kind of bananas. So yeah, Sully.
Good morning, I'm Sully. I guess I was a Creative Morning alumni, because I spoke. So I spoke in June, and then I became part of the board in Q3. So that's all I'm on. So talk about community, and this is what it's all about. I am the fearless leader in the neighborhood of the finest gourmet oatmeal truck in oatmeal space. My name is Chris Woodhall, director of Oatmeal World. I'm also one of Creative Mornings. I was giving the word Being Justice. I think that was in 2019. I saw the potential of building networks in the community, so I wanted to be part of the organizing team. I love what Cody has established and everything for us to kind of build up. So it's good to be here.
What Chris didn't tell you is that he's also a super talented creative, and what Sully didn't tell you is that he is our sock influencer. So we're going to go with a little bit of a panel format this morning, and I'm kind of going to play host because that's a little bit what I do. So we wanted to talk a little bit first about how we personally engage with community, and then we're going to talk about how we think about community at a high level today. So where we began, where we are today, and then some practical tips for how to create or engage in a healthy community. So that's kind of a tall order. We're going to be passing the mic around a lot, and I think there will be room for questions at the end if we're too rambling and esoteric. So hopefully this is somewhere in between an NPR special and just a conversation at a coffee shop table. Let's do it. So our first question, and the first thing we really want to use about is, I'm going to ask you guys, where did your ideas about community first come from, and what were they?
I mean, ideas for community basically come from all different kinds of spaces. I grew up in a military family. My father was in the Air Force, so I had to go in and out of communities, establish communities, and then we moved like every 3 years. So a lot of my ideas about community came from my own personal experience in my body about being in spaces and communities. Also, my first 2 years in my middle school years and first 2 years of high school, I was in Brazil. And so I went to Lakewood High School, and so my ideas about community came from being put into places where I was bewildered and didn't have necessarily the resources to understand how to fit in, so I had to figure out the vocabularies of the room as I went along. A lot of my work in professional life has been related to community building. I was a city councilman in Knoxville, done a lot of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion kind of work, and also some community-based work. So, so ideas are always, I mean, it's one thing to have ideas about something. It's another thing to develop capacity for something. A lot of times we think if we did something, it's a thought. I mean, thinking is cool. Yeah, but doing it requires something. You don't learn, how to play soccer by reading a book. You have to go out there. And it's the same community. We're all potential facilitators. And what I love about hanging out with these two brothers is that they're natural born facilitators. They have that. And the organizers, I was talking to a couple of people who are organizing this event, that kind of generosity of spirit, that, people who know how to kind of steward their own presence in a way that isn't so loud, and intrusive. That was not a very good transition. I'm not good at transitions. Like at the end of a phone conversation, it's like, okay, bye.
I was just asking. Oh, my bad. Oh, okay. All right. So in the beginning, my idea of community was only what I saw. For me, I had to force myself to get out of what I only saw. Growing up in the black and brown community, that's all we saw. So we saw what we saw, like basketball, football, things of that nature. So fast forward to growing up, I didn't go off of college, but going to a college and finish. And seeing different things and then getting to the workforce will force me to understand that communities are far greater than what we really live at, where our address is, where we come home to, where we eat breakfast at everyone. It's a whole world of community, and there's little pockets of community as well too, right? You may be a coffee community. I don't do coffee, but I love working cafe. They have amazing China that I do love. And those bagels are on point. So for me, I had to kind of like engulf myself in different communities. So top tier for me, running community. I see these guys a message what we were kind of game playing with this that I just started running because all the gyms closed through the pandemic. I didn't know that Amon Alvin was going to get choked while running. I didn't know those boys were going to be choked out. And I ran my first half marathon in the height of those things. And I had purposely wore a shirt that said bright orange, like an orange jumpsuit for prison. On the back of it said, I'm just running for my health. Black man running for my health, right? And hundreds of people that I was passing in the marathon and half marathon. Like, we're here with your brother over here, and the rest is history. So next Saturday, if you got a free, we're actually running in the West Side, which is the inner city community, and we're bringing the running community to inner city kids so they can see what a community is like.
Yeah, so I think it's maybe worth talking a little bit about what we currently believe a community is, because that's a big word. It's a little bit loaded. You could call this space a community, but if y'all don't come back next month, you should come back next month. Then it's just an event, you know? And I see a ton of people who are really, really, really gifted at this already. So I'm gonna shut down my imposter syndrome, and I'm gonna hand you guys that for a second to think about what you think the community is right now, and just say, like, my perspective from the beginning, and what's heavily informed my take on community. I always was kind of on the outside as a kid. I was homeschooled and I was pretty isolated, I guess is the right word. And so I developed a really analytical relationship with community. I would always observe from the corners and kind of try to understand who was having fun and who wasn't and why. And it just seemed clear that, like, so much of the time communities ended up flattened to the 2 or 3 loudest voices, really dominated by those, and it wasn't fun for everyone else, but they kept coming back to that alternative. So it really made me think a lot about community spaces that help people feel seen and valued and kind of engaged with. So that's a little bit what my perspective will lead to, but I want to hear first what you guys think a community is. You want to take that first?
So I think community is intentionality, right? We all can come to this room, we can grab coffee, we put the name tags on, but if you're not intentionally walking around, shaking hands, kissing babies, commanding the room, you will not become a part of the community. As I said, when you show up to events, you can hang out in the back, sit on pillows. So when I spoke at community, at my Zoom speech, I intentionally made everybody get up, gave me 30 seconds. So I'm sure most of us probably came with somebody, the first person you saw in the room, I'm just gonna hang out with them because I know them, right? I think intentionality is meaning that get around. You may say, hey, I like your pants, I like your sweater. You know, just getting to know people and getting to understand. Community and networking go hand in hand, but I always say we network wrong because we network for, a lot of people network for financial gain instead of networking for added value. So community is all about added value. So me, I'm a runner, I like health. If somebody's talking about, oh, I just want to start my day with better, I may add value by saying, hey, we can just journal the night before and start working out the next day, or I have free workouts. I have oatmeal that can help you feel good in the morning time. So I think being very intentional in large rooms like this, and also small rooms. So elevator talk. You get 30 seconds with somebody in the elevator at a hospital, at a mall, or anything. Just ask them how their day doing. And you can build a community right there. So last night I was at Smoothie King on Broad Street. I seen a guy, he was a trucker, he had this look on his face like he was tired. And I just started talking to him. We're gonna find out we both have kids, we both enjoy spending family time. We both like the transportation industry. He had to take a call so I didn't get his contact information, but right there we did it. So intentionality and adding value is my take on it.
Community is like really important. If you ask people to stand up and ask people what do they think community is, generally speaking, you're gonna hear the word vibe. The vibe is an element of it, but it's not actually community. A lot of we live in a time where a lot of communities that aren't really communities, but they're called communities, are organized around rivalry agreements and movements, right? And so that's just a group. There are elements of community there, but the potential for an actual community to exist has different kinds of elements, and it can actually heal a city. I remember being on city council and knowing full well that people's ability to be neighbors, the community's well-being hinged on their ability to be neighbors. You know, to be able to sit next to people who are different than you, think different than you, and to build a rapport. Community is like infrastructure for all the things that we say we want, but it requires practice and presence. So a lot of times, if you want to do something big in your life, you start small and you get smaller, meaning intimacy, person. When I talk about community, I use 3 different words: elevate, educate, activate. Elevate basically means it is vibe, you know, spirit, coffee, eating, You know, how the room is arranged. You know, how do you
Good
feel?
music.
What's that?
Good music.
Good music, beautiful art. You know, Bessie looking at us. Yeah, I mean, so that's who we are. You know, we're haptic human beings. You know, we relate to the world through our senses. Education is really about, you know, kind of the tools that we're offering. And are we being kind of clued in on what we need to know, and how we need to know what we need to know. Activate is where you're inviting not just the leader but the people to kind of come up with a program, or come up with an action. So elevate, educate, activate. Education is a weird word because a lot of times in our school system it means compliance. But education is being able to have the kind of personal agency so you can figure out how to get out of situations, how to change things, how to move things. And community is what supports that. It's tricky and it requires people who are willing to feel awkward and ignorant and uncomfortable. And not many people of us, not many of us really love that opportunity.
Who here feels awkward, ignorant, or uncomfortable right now? Yeah, great. That is why we're all friends. So it's interesting to think about like community as the thing that enables all of that.
It's the infrastructure.
It's the infrastructure, yeah. So how do you go about building a space where all that's possible? Like maybe what are the ingredients in the space?
I mean, the space itself.
Yeah.
Can determine a whole lot of things. You know, a lot of times we try to have conversations in spaces that have no windows, or there's someone with a leaf blower outside. So where you have the conversation matters. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So I would say that's the mix of both. This is just coming from a restaurateur. That's the mixing bowl, and then the attitude of gratitude, right? Just being grateful and being finding what you can get out of each other, right? And not in a vindictive way, but in a I'm here to lean on you, to help on you. That would probably be the flower of the I would agree.
I like that mixing bowl.
This metaphor brought to you by the open. That's what it is.
Yeah, so the structure, and I do actually think that it does require, a facilitator. Another word for that would be host. You know, when you go to a party, there's usually somebody to help as well. And so hospitality is key to these kind of things. You know, hospitality is attending to how people feel in the space. And hospitality is about, it's like there's an old Sufi phrase that said, if you want to understand the sentence 1 and 1 is 2, you don't need to understand what 1 is, you need to understand what and is. So much about community is about understanding the elements of connection.
Yeah.
And we're talking whole milk, whole milk.
Oh man. Yeah, I guess I find myself thinking about those ingredients a lot to keep your mixing bowl metaphor going. You do, yeah. But Chris was just talking about hospitality. I think, and needing a host of some sort. And I think, something you all experienced this morning, I think the Hive Think, the caffeinated guys have done an amazing job of this. You're welcome as soon as you walk in the door. In fact, before you walk in the door. Like the hospitality and the energy was just palpable.
Dylan opened the door for me. I was like, man, I don't have to touch the door today? Somebody was at the elevator for me?
Right, but it made you feel valuable and valued, right? Which puts you in the state of being your best self. Now, what state would you rather meet people in than that? So, I don't know, I think about the ingredients as being, I guess, kind of time and vulnerability. And your role as a host, as someone practicing hospitality, is just to be so generous and thoughtful that it makes those two things easy for everyone who's there. You're like removing barriers, right? And And that yields shared experience, and over time, that yields community.
I'm gonna add one more G.
Another
Genuine.
genuine.
Genuine. I think when I met both of you all, it was very genuine. A lot of spaces that we go into, you may not get that, but when you're building and bridging communities, having that genuine, like, I may be at my mom's kitchen table feel right now. That's what they brought to it. I mean, probably met you like a day before.
We did, yeah.
It was all hugs, and me and Chris, we grabbed coffee, tea, probably a few times, and but it was all genuine love from the beginning. So.
Yeah, and I think that like lends my thought on community today. Community is completely predicated on an attitude of for you. Not for me, for you. You cannot be extractive and create a community. You cannot be outcome oriented and self-oriented and create a community. Nobody's just saying that. Everyone knows you're trying to get something from them. I work in marketing and design, and everyone knows that our population, our culture at this point has such a great bullshit meter. Like, people know when you're trying to pull a fast one on them, so just don't. The return will come on some level, maybe. It might not be what you expect. The company I work for has been hosting, or been financially sponsoring Creative Mornings for like 6 years, and they've never had a specific ROI attached to that, but we get job applications from the Creative Mornings community all the time. But if that's what we made the event for, nobody would come.
When George Floyd was murdered, there was a lot of protests, there were marches and things like that. And then all of a sudden, a lot of my friends became, diversity consultants. And I like the idea that people have a revenue stream, but what we found is that a lot of these companies, white people, were uncomfortable with the workshops. And so the evidence basically indicated that white people felt sad or angry after and there's a lot of brain science connected to this, is that you don't just come in and start talking about white fragility. I mean, you can, but then people are going to be hospitable on the surface, but they're going to kind of move away from doing actual work. So what I found, and Genesis, the great kid, he and I have done a lot of poetry workshops together, and we've talked about how your intention sometimes is the secondary impact. So like I did a poetry workshop where I had maybe 6 black creatives, 3 whites, and we checked in. We were in a circle, and I said, okay, tell me your name, how you doing, and have you accepted Dave Chappelle as your Lord and Savior? And so just like that, you laugh, and then you answer the question, and we talked about, stand-up comedy as being one of the last remaining ways in which people tell the truth. Then we did some writing, and then I introduced a prompt that included a microaggression. And people were prepared on some level to choose to be awkward or vulnerable, because we'd already established a little bit of community. So community is not, it is about feeling safe, if you hear that word, and relaxed. But safe and relaxed so you can do more rigorous work, I think.
Yeah, and that's an outcome you can count on.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
Just a little bit.
So you're the anchor holding this together. Y'all still with us?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think we've been a little conceptual. I think we've danced around a couple of practical things this morning too, but I think I want to make this really pointed for a second, really tangible, because we can just have fun hanging out, but we want to make sure it's valuable for y'all too. And so that question is for you guys, what are your practical tips and specific approaches for bringing people closer together? I think you talked about one of them just now, Chris, but where else would you take that?
I just work cool stores. Attract everybody to it. Now, so for me, anytime I go into any space, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a community engagement event, and just try to piece together what we can do. So a few months ago, I spoke at another coffee shop called the Green Bean Coffee Shop, and they were having a wellness day. And there was some guys from a local gym here, and I kind of challenged them. They were talking about doing all these things, and it's okay for you to open your business every day and serve your regular customers. And my challenge to them were, what are you doing in your community? And I don't think that they understood that their gym is right across a community where it's income-based housing, a lot of kids. But they said, oh yeah, we do pop-up workouts, and not too many people showed up. And I was like, well, you have to really take it to them. So my thing with the community is taking it to the community and giving them an opportunity, because they may not know about it. You know, everybody's following me on social media. If you're not knocking on doors like they did back in the day, or on every Saturdays, they're not going to hear about it. So how can you know, in that moment we were talking about doing all these great things. I said, hey, like, how can we take your business into those communities to change those communities? So that's how I kind of approach it. And it's not like that aggressive. It's more, I smile a lot when I do it, but it's just asking, what are you doing in the community? So.
I can think of a lot of things. I remember having the good fortune of being around some really great facilitators. I remember Ron Chisholm of People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. Man, I remember when he walked in the room, he's an older Afro-Cuban looking brother, and he was wearing a beret, and I remember thinking, man, I need to get a beret. But he was really, really good at feeling comfortable in front of other people, which basically leads me to the challenge, and that is that you have to, before you start establishing communities, reintroduce yourself to yourself. And get a sense of who you are, and take notes on who you are. We don't all lead community and facilitate in the same way, so you have to be a good steward of who you are. I mean, you'll get an avalanche of clues if you just go find some awkward space to sit in, and then just take notes on yourself and figure out, you know, what's going on with you. I mean, I learned how to facilitate by being in spaces where I failed. I mean, you walk away thinking, I'm never doing that again. This is not me. You know, so facilitation is a little bit like writing. It's like the art of failure, and coming back. It's not really failure. It's like, you know, like in jazz, you take kind of awkward ideas and build on them, and find the possibilities. So it's a way of kind of re-engineering your brain to maximizing opportunities. But I would invite you to find a space that is not a space that you normally feel comfortable in. I mean, be safe. I understand that, but explore uncomfortable spaces and learn from how to react to those spaces.
I was just telling Cody that uncomfortable space was mile 22 of America. I didn't need no pen, no paper, no music. I was like, who am I and why am I doing this?
I was like mile 22 as well. I was going to quit. And then the other, you know, my brain is like four guys in a car, you know, and the guys in the back are going.
Is it a Camry?
Huh?
Toyota Camry? What kind of car?
No, at this point it was like a Pinto. No, but the guy in the back of the seat was going, man, it's all you can eat spaghetti at the end of this thing. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. You don't eat that usually.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think, man, I love that take of like knowing yourself. I think the role of the host, we were a little implicit about it earlier, but we're kind of talking to y'all as if you are the host. The role of the host is yours, or it could be. And I think that the ways that we're thinking about, I think one of my most pithy takes is don't be transactional. We've talked about that already, and the BCAP guys talked about that at the beginning. That's true whether you're hosting or just attending. You don't gain community from a transaction. So I think.
You about to close it up?
No, no.
Okay. I was just
Keep it
gonna,
open.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna invite the audience to ask us an uncomfortable question.
Ooh,
Yeah. I mean, it's not possible.
we got a hand.
So you're speaking a lot about how to create community spaces and get them launched, but as we go into those community spaces, people stop showing up and they stop committing to the creation of the community. What do you suggest as maintenance to keep them strong and going?
Just keep showing up. You can't even focus on who's gonna come. They said they had 3 people, it's probably like 60 to 70 that I'm not gonna count everybody, but yeah, it's all about consistency, right? And reimagining what it looks like when people stop showing up. Kind of going back to the drawing board and having a focus group. But don't spend too much time on who's gonna show up, because the people that are gonna come, they're gonna show up. And if you get one to show up and you talk to them and they get something out of it, you've done your job. So just keep showing up.
I love that.
But also, you know, people are hardwired to be curious. You know, you can come up with something that's really kind of interesting. You know, what's that?
100 birthdays. Yeah, suffering.
I mean, a lot of times the way we present material, it's like, we're going to teach you blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, wow. That sounds dreary. So think of something creative, fun, human, real. You know, scandalous on this side of the line of safe. You know, I mean, if a lot of times you'll hear someone go, "Did you see what just happened down there?" What? No, what? So intrigue people. There was this book called Cities from the Edge. There was this time and it's still going on, where the downtown areas of municipalities were basically empty, right? And so people started to repopulate the core of the city. And the city planners were doing this because they were running out of money. They couldn't support the perimeter of people living in the suburbs. What this book found out is that a lot of policy, good planning, that's important, but these little novelty experiences really helped. Like a skate park, like a skating rink, what is oftentimes referred to as a bird space. You know, people show up because they're curious and they want to play. Getting adults to play is hard. You know, but if you can do that, you've got something right there.
All right. How do you pull community scarcity or fear mindset into a creative or fun?
Oh, I have to take on this. You model it. I think it's just like what Chris is saying. There's a level of, I think people respond to the space that you create around them. It's why we believe at Creative Minds the space is so important. We try really hard never to repeat a venue. And we see that the room changes, the tone of the room changes, and I think there's that idea of scarcity is so baked into a transactional culture. And one of the things that we try really, really hard to model and lead with at Creative Mornings is a generosity culture. So there's never any exchange of funds. There's never even a conversation about money at that space. And I think also we work really hard to model the idea that if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. One of my favorite quotes, it's a designer, none of y'all really need to know who it is, but he said that art is anything that's better than it needs to be. And I think generosity is the same, and I think hospitality is the same. True hospitality is anything that is better than it has to be. And I think, again, the Caffeinated team models that well. This could have just been a speaker series, but they brought these incredible musicians. There's art here, there's pastries, like there's a sense of abundance in the room. And I think that gives rise to that sense of abundance in all of us too. Does that answer your question?
I want to add one tidbit to it. Use that as a superpower, right? So I'm not going to get too biblical, but my pastor, listen to my virtual pastor, he said that God will use your deficiency to put you in rooms that you don't think you should be there for. So if you're scared, if you have scarcity, if you don't want to think that you should be there, that's probably the urge that needs to put you there. And again, going back to it, somebody will come and somebody will take away something from you, taking that step of faith and being in and creating that space and being in that room. So that's what I want to do.
On behalf of the socially anxious community, what is your favorite way to approach and engage with someone?
I'm so awkward, I gotta be on the microphone.
I think the point for me, man, I can't. The full title of the book is how to win and influence people. And what stood out to me in that book is that when we lead off with conversations, everybody wants to be kind of like heard or understood. And I have to strategically try to do this the correct way. So instead of talking about me, that's why oftentimes I don't even introduce myself, until it's too late, until everybody's leaving, because I just want to get to know people. So leading off with, hey, I like your blue hair, or you got some nice glasses, like what do you do? Getting the other person to conversate more about themselves versus saying, hey, I'm Sully, I run an amazing oatmeal, I run on the weekends, I do this, I do that. Like at some point you're gonna be like, I wish this guy would just shut up, right? But if I'm talking to you and I'm asking you, how's your family? Do you have a family? What you do on a day-to-day basis? We're getting more comfortable with each other. And then in return, you may open up and say, hey, we've talked about me enough. What about you? What do you do? So that's what I use, the art of getting to know people and doing it in a genuine way, not to just, get something out of it, but really getting to know people and jotting down names and exchanging contact.
Yeah, I would just say to keep beating my drum, that's generosity in conversation, right? You're just practicing curiosity in a way that the other person may never find out about you. And you have to let that go and be okay with that.
I would just be repeating the same thing, asking other people questions, and let's say you don't even know that person, maybe you find out a little bit of something, and you genuinely cultivate some curiosity. That's another thing. I mean, like you can't really teach anybody you don't love. So you.
I dropped.
I'm gonna end my contribution. I remember listening to Duke Ellington, who led one of the most successful orchestras, and he and Billy Strayed from that. He made some powerful music. But they asked him, they said, "Man, how did you get so many talented musicians to just kind of create music together?" And he said, "You gotta have a gimmick." And the interviewer's like, "Whoa, okay, what is it?" "I give them money." Some things are just not that deep. Anyway, that's my conclusion.
Chris?
Yeah, let's give him another hand. So, real quick before you all leave, when is the next Creative Mornings? It's every last Friday, right?
It is.
Except for December.
It is. Yeah, we live in Chattanooga where everyone leaves in December, so it'll be the last Friday of January.
Awesome. So last Friday of January, you can follow them at CM_Chattanooga. Chattanooga_CM. And so one of the reasons we have this event as the second Friday of every month is because we wanted it to flow well with their event. So they're the last Friday, we're the second Friday. So theoretically, every 2 or 3 weeks, you can come to one of these. We want to give a shout out to the other kind of networking groups in town. So you've got obviously Creative Mornings, you've got the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce that has basically events every week, depending on what council and geography it is. You've got Nuga Networking, that's just a giant room full of people that are just talking and stuff. You've got B&I, that's a little more intense, but it's like that weekly connection that's really great. Am I missing any?
YPC.
Oh, Young Professionals of Chattanooga, that's also an offshoot of the Chamber. There's a ton, so just there's so many great groups going on in Chattanooga, and this is just our spin. So before we end, I have a question, and then Mike's going to sign us off, but I just want to go through and have everybody look at what colors you're wearing. So let's start with red for like small business people. Just like raise your hand if you're wearing a red sticker, or should be All right, and then let's see, blue is creative. So raise your hand if you're one of our creatives. That is awesome. All right, and then yellow is resources. So raise your hand if you're a resource. Excellent. And then our green nonprofits. Please raise your hand if you're a nonprofit. That's incredible. Exactly. So I want to point out that there wasn't really a stronger demographic here. It was pretty even, and that's super exciting, and that's the whole point of this event, is we want to be the crossroads of small business, nonprofits, creatives, resources, etc. And it's funny that Sydney said that that was our model. We're actually modeling it after Be the Change. Deirdre over there in the corner, looking a little sassy with her leg like that. So when they were trying to figure out what good community looks like, she just did this super crazy deep dive into communities that are strong and considered happy. And she started in America, and apparently those lists you pay to be on, so she stopped looking there. And then she looked kind of across the pond and found a lot of the like Slavic, Scandinavian countries, and the countries that have a focus on small business, nonprofits, creatives, and youth are the strongest, happiest, most long-living community. So that's the whole purpose of Be the Change, is to kind of bring the youth and all those together, and then we're over here. It'll be weird if we try to invite a bunch of kids to a networking group, so we're not doing that. We're doing the other side of it. So really excited that it is such a widespread and that we're all here together to learn. So my challenge to you is, if you haven't already, before you leave, meet one of the other colored stickers that you haven't met already and see if there's something that you guys can work on together. Because I always butcher the quote, but all boats rise when the tide rises. Or, you know that general
Rising tide.
Raise all ships.
Yeah.
That one.
Together we did it.
Yep.
We did it together.
That's community. It's my favorite quote, and I butcher it every time. I don't know how. But that's the idea. So thank you guys for being here, and then Mike is going to sign us off.
Awesome. All right, I got my notebook here so don't forget things. First off, Joshua Allen, who is awesome and filmed for us today. His business is Jam Sessions Productions. He's amazing. We didn't throw that name out there before. I want to make sure I hit it. Next, on the sign-in sheet, there was a little thing that talked about info sharing. If you wanted to make sure, you know, oftentimes you have like misconnections. We're like, oh, we meant to talk, but I forgot to get their card or their email or whatever. The idea behind that is that we'll just email the people that chose to be on that, so that you can share those names and find those people like, oh man, I meant to talk to them, or I didn't get it. Next thing, the next coffee break is January 12th, which is the second Friday of the month. Even right there, I forgot the date, but I knew it was the second Friday of the month, so that's a helpful tip for you all. And that's going to be at United Way, so they're going to be our awesome host.
Is Cassie still here? Cassie? She might have already left. Okay, never mind.
She's
United
awesome.
Way.
She's awesome. She's so busy helping people, she had to go help more people before this is over. Kind of another little call to action in terms of like community things. I'm really bad about saying, and maybe we'll see if anyone else is bad at this. Yeah, we should totally get coffee sometime, but you never actually set a date. Anyone else do that? Okay, great. There's a lot of hands raised, and a couple people that are like, I wanted to raise my hand, but I was nervous to. So my call to action to you is like actually set up that time before you leave today, so that it becomes real. Otherwise, it is just a big event that we got at. Instead, what if you actually started a real relationship? You had coffee one time, and another time, and another time, and then you're playing Smash Bros. In each other's house. It's gonna be so cool. And then last but not least, just give it up one more time for the artists and musicians. We'll probably be hanging out for a little bit more if you want to talk. Also for Hive Think, we'll be back there if you want to talk with us. We love grabbing coffee with people, as you might expect with the app. So, yeah, enjoy, talk amongst each other, set up those coffee meetings, and yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. See you at the next one.